The National Desk, America's News Now. Right now, the West Coast threatened by multiple fires in a wildfire season already breaking records. Then new testimony alleges Joe Biden knew about Hunter Biden's business dealings, but is it the smoking gun Republicans claim?
Hunter would put his father on speakerphone with whomever was at dinner, and there was no indication that he had any idea who was at dinner with them.
And a new miracle in Buffalo as a man once feared dead takes the field again. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Eugene Ramirez. A fire on the U.S.-Canada border in Eagle Bluff now burning out of control. Hundreds of homes are in areas now under evacuation orders in both Washington state and a southern part of British Columbia in Canada as this Eagle Bluff fire continues to spread right now. Meantime, in Oregon, 25 separate wildfires burning across that state. In fact, within the past few hours, evacuation orders in Curry County, Oregon, those were just downgraded to level 1 as firefighters now achieve 14% containment of that fire called the Flat Fire. Right now still covering some 25,000 acres, and officials believe it may have been started by a person. Meantime, the York Fire in the Mojave Desert has grown to more than 77,000 acres and has crossed state lines from California into Nevada as firefighters have had trouble battling that fire due to some visibility issues out there. As of right now, no evacuations have been ordered in Clark County, Nevada, but officials stress that anyone who lives nearby should be careful and cautious and be ready to leave if they need to do so. Now to our north, Canada already seeing a record-setting fire season. 31 million acres burned in Canada so far, forcing more than 120,000 people to evacuate over the course of the summer, with those numbers only expected to rise at this point. Now, right now, many Americans are finally getting some relief from this weeks-long heat wave that has plagued much of the country. Phoenix, Arizona could even break its streak of 31 straight days at or above 110 degrees. Heat warnings and advisories have been lifted in the southwest and the east. Still, more than 47 million people are still under alerts in the south and the southern plains. Dallas, Texas could see its hottest days of the year still to come here in the next few days. Now, the heat is costing the economy billions of dollars in lost productivity. According to a study and annual reviews of resource economics, extreme heat increases absenteeism and reduces work hours. In 2021, more than 2.5 billion hours of labor were lost due to heat exposure. And in 2020, the loss of labor cost the economy about $100 billion. That's projected to increase to $500 billion by the year 2050. Austin, Texas, testing cool pavement technology to see if a lighter colored, more reflective pavement will absorb less heat and also help lower city temperatures. Previous testing by the University of Texas has shown that the material reduces heat by 2 to 10 degrees. The city's testing just under a mile of road, but it does plan to add 10 more miles to this pilot project later in the summer. A little bit of relief there if they can pull that off. Now, portions of the East Coast still cleaning up from the weekend storms that you see here in these images. This is out of the D.C. area. Some major roads there remain blocked by the downed trees and wires you see. Thousands still without power. Officials say wind speeds were clocked at more than 80 miles per hour Saturday afternoon. Tonight, President Biden was out on a bike ride today in Delaware, but on Capitol Hill, Republicans held a hearing that could impact his future election chances and even the rest of this term. They say there's new information that his son Hunter leveraged his father's power when he was vice president, putting him on speakerphone more than 20 times during business dealings. The National Desk's chief political correspondent Scott Thuman examines if it really matters.
While it's a day at the beach for President Biden, a less relaxed tone back in Washington, where lawmakers met behind closed doors Monday to question Hunter Biden's former business partner, Devon Archer. Republicans hoping to connect Hunter's overseas deals they claim are improper, possibly even illegal, to President Biden.
I believe that Joe Biden knows about all those things. Now, what level of involvement he had as a participant, we're investigating to find out.
Republicans also seeking to identify buyers of Hunter Biden's pricey paintings to see if Biden's supporters are paying up as a way to funnel money to the family. But the Wall Street Journal reporting the president is ignoring the political perils while his son accompanies him in high-profile settings. The Journal noting how squarely in the spotlight President Biden has kept his scandal-plagued son, adding that proximity worries some presidential allies, concerned it could hurt Biden's chances to keep the White House in Democrats' hands in 2024.
The president and the first lady, they love their son, and they support him as he is working to rebuild his life.
Biden's approval ratings mired in the 40s, another potential hurdle. But Democrats don't believe Hunter's issues matter as much as Republicans claim, even using a Trump line of defense.
I think this is a witch hunt. If Hunter Biden has broken the law, he should be held accountable. I don't have any concerns.
But others insist President Biden should.
Anytime a politician or a politician's family has the word deal next to them, that's a problem. That's a huge problem.
And that's why Republicans are feverishly searching right now for hard evidence of wrongdoing that they hope could pave the way for them to possibly try and impeach President Biden. Eugene?
Sure. Scott, the 20-plus times that Hunter Biden got his dad on speakerphone while with other people, including his business partners, how significant is that? Is there anything to take away from that?
Well, there are two very different interpretations of just what that means, how serious it might be. Democrats, after today's testimony, said that these were harmless interactions, sometimes nothing more than just some pleasantries, not business, but that Hunter used them to sell an illusion he had leverage with his father. Republicans, very opposite interpretation of all of this, obviously. They're saying this is just more evidence, and they plan to keep digging.
Scott Thuman in Washington, thank you. Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis telling a local CNN affiliate in Georgia that she will announce any charges against Donald Trump by September 1st. The work is accomplished. We've been working for 2.5 years. We're ready to go. That was her direct quote there. Barriers now up around the courthouse, leading many to speculate that an indictment could soon be coming here. Meantime, a Fulton County Superior Judge, denied Trump's legal team's effort to disqualify the DA from the case. The Trump legal team making the case that the DA has a conflict of interest since she's a political candidate. Trump's lawyers also filing a separate motion to dismiss Willis with the Georgia Supreme Court that will be decided at a hearing coming up on August 10th. We'll keep an eye on that for you. Carlos de Oliveira, that's the third defendant in the Mar-a-Lago documents case, was in court this morning. He did not enter a plea, nor was he officially arraigned because he does not have local counsel there in Florida.
The Justice Department has unfortunately decided to bring these charges against Mr. Dale. And now it's time for them to put their money where their mouth is.
De Oliveira was released on a $100,000 bond and must hand over his expired U.S. passport within 48 hours. He's due back in court on Thursday, August 10th, in Fort Pierce to be formally arraigned. Donald Trump's Political Action Committee, Save America PAC, has spent more than $40 million on legal fees, according to the Washington Post. It's expected Trump's backers are set to launch the Patriot Legal Defense Fund to assist with the mounting costs against the former president and his associates. Developing now, Memphis police say they likely prevented a mass shooting after they shot an armed man this afternoon who was trying to get inside a Jewish day school. The man attempted to enter the Margolin Hebrew Academy with a gun, but the doors there were locked. Then he tried to escape. That's when he was shot outside of the school by police and is now in critical condition. As of right now, a motive is still unknown. A suspect has been charged with criminal homicide after a fatal stabbing on a Greyhound bus. That bus traveling from Pittsburgh to Washington, D.C. late last night. Javon Garrett reportedly stabbing another passenger in the neck after harassing several others there. The victim, Cozell McQueen, was rushed to the hospital and later died. Lori Vallow Daybell was sentenced to life in prison without parole today after being convicted in the murders of 2 of her children and also for conspiring the murder of her husband's first wife in Idaho. At trial, prosecutors portrayed Vallow Daybell as having apocalyptic religious beliefs, believing religious figures who had a system of rating people as light or dark and endorsing religious beliefs for the purposes of justifying or encouraging those killings. Going by the numbers now, one of the largest trucking companies in the country, Yellow, shutting down and filing for bankruptcy, leaving more than 30,000 workers without a job. The company ceasing operations yesterday after a battle with the Teamsters Union. This after it announced hundreds of layoffs last week. Yellow has more than 12,000 trucks that move goods for companies like Walmart and Home Depot. Happening today, Space Command will now stay in Colorado. President Biden has overturned former President Trump's decision to move the headquarters to Huntsville, Alabama. General James Dickinson, the head of Space Command, said that moving the headquarters would negatively affect military readiness. Critics of Biden's decision, Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville holds of all defense nominations, that posit he has on those defense nominations over the abortion policy of the military. However, the administration did not offer that as a reason for keeping Space Command in Colorado. Damar Hamlin back on the field in full pads. You see him here. That was a practice at Bills training camp today. It's his first time in full uniform since collapsing on the field in Cincinnati 7 months ago after going into cardiac arrest. The Bills' safety was cleared to resume practicing in mid-April.
It's just another milestone as far as the journey. You know, it's going to be a long journey. You know what I'm saying? Like I say, some of these emotions will never leave. You know, whenever everybody's not paying attention to me no more, you know, I'll still be processing these emotions myself.
Remarkable recovery there for him. Coming up here on the National Desk, student loan payments could be wiped clean for some Americans in a new repayment plan, the new requirements for financial freedom. Then a simple new way to screen for Alzheimer's years before symptoms begin. And ghost guns have been the target of more restrictions, how some manufacturers may be getting around those laws. And we're back in 90 seconds. The Biden administration's new income-driven student loan repayment plan is now active. A beta version of the website began taking IDR applicants. IDR payments are determined by a borrower's income and family size, which could result in some payments as low as zero. Enrollment takes about 10 minutes, and you can get started right now at studentaid.gov/IDR. Those loan payments will begin again come October. Wall Street closing out the month on a high note. The Dow gaining 100 points. The S&P 500 rising 0.2%. That's its fifth straight month of gains. And the Nasdaq also closing 0.2% higher. Critics worry the rally has come too quickly and could point to fallout on the horizon. We'll see. 2024 presidential candidates starting to roll out their plans for the U.S. economy. Today, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis becoming the latest to introduce his economic agenda. Our national correspondent, Elena Shard, takes a closer look at that and how voters think Biden is handling the economy right now.
This summer, the Biden administration has gone all in on Bidenomics. The president, vice president, and cabinet members crisscrossing the country to convince Americans their economic plan is working.
You see more the things that you need in order to really have a sense of vibrancy in a community.
However, a new CBS poll finds 59% of adults say they haven't read or heard much or anything at all about Bidenomics. For those who have heard about Bidenomics, when asked what comes to mind when they hear the word, the top answers are higher inflation, tax increases, investment in infrastructure, and job creation. The latest reading of consumer confidence from the Conference Board shows people are starting to feel better about the economy and the direction it's headed. But it's not necessarily translating politically for President Biden, at least not yet. His approval rating still hovers around 40%, according to Gallup, and the Republicans hoping to replace him are trying to capitalize on that.
We are today declaring our economic independence from the failed elites and policies that have harmed this nation's middle class.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, whose struggling campaign is going through a reset, rolled out his three-part economic plan Monday to, as he puts it, take economic control back from China, grow the economy faster, and achieve quote-unquote energy independence.
Well, hello, Iowa.
Candidates polling even lower, trying bolder proposals. Former Vice President Mike Pence going all in on lowering inflation, supporting an overhaul of the Federal Reserve to eliminate its mandate to protect jobs. And, along with former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley,
and we're going to go tell them times have changed.
Looking at raising the retirement age for Social Security and Medicare to ensure the programs stay afloat. How much traction these ideas get in voting booths will likely depend on conditions closer to 2024. In Washington, I'm Atra Al-Nashar for the National Desk, America's News Now.
The White House calling out Russia's latest comments on nuclear war. A senior Russian official said the country may be, quote, forced to use a nuclear weapon if Ukraine succeeds in its counteroffensive, adding, quote, our enemies should pray to our fighters that they do not allow the world to go up in nuclear flames. A National Security Council spokesperson calling the language reckless and irresponsible, adding the council has not seen any reason to adjust its nuclear posture. White House intelligence advisors say the FBI should have less access to a surveillance database of foreign emails and some other communications. The group recommending today that the FBI limit its use to foreign intelligence purposes. Now, it goes against the Biden administration's efforts to keep that program in place. It's not clear if President Biden will follow the recommendation. Tonight, leprosy in the U.S. may soon be listed as endemic. The number of reported cases more than doubling in southeastern states over the last decade. A new CDC research letter out today shows that Central Florida accounts for almost 20% of all cases across the United States and 81% of all cases within the state of Florida. Also known as Hansen's disease, leprosy is a bacterial infection that affects the skin and the nerves. It can lead to discoloration and dismemberment. It is treatable and not as contagious as once feared. Quest Diagnostics has released the first direct-to-consumer Alzheimer's risk assessment test. And this is used to help with diagnosis and identifying a key protein which can appear years before dementia symptoms arise. The knowledge will help people plan for future care. Also gives a better understanding to doctors and researchers to find a cure for this disease affecting so many. A new reactor at a nuclear power plant in Georgia now in operation, the first new American reactor built from scratch in decades. Georgia Power Company says Unit 3 at Plant Vogtle has finished testing and is sending electricity to the grid. It's capable of powering 500,000 homes and businesses. Another reactor at the site will be finished soon. Actor Paul Reubens, best known as the 80s children's TV star Pee Wee Herman, has died after a years-long battle with cancer. A statement posted to his Facebook says he, quote, delighted generations of children and adults with his positivity, whimsy, and belief in the importance of kindness, and that he will forever live in the comedy pantheon as a treasured friend and man. His Pee Wee Herman character was so popular, Reubens got an HBO special in a 1985 film with Tim Burton. Reubens was 70 years old. The National Desk taking the pulse of America. Our team of nearly 4,000 local journalists bringing you the headlines from coast to coast. And now we start in Maryland with a social media trend fueling car theft.
It was a BPD car.
We've had a departmental car that's been stolen with police equipment in it.
An unmarked 2018 silver Kia Optima. Just one of the latest to be stolen by thieves in Baltimore City.
It's a serious public safety hazard because these cars are, they're stolen. Usually it's juveniles that are doing it. It's that TikTok challenge.
This week, the safety chair of the Patterson Park Neighborhood Association pointing to a social media craze, prompting some Hyundais and Kias to be hotwired with just a USB cable. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration also blaming TikTok, saying millions of cars nationwide are potential targets. But even as the car makers offer free software upgrades to bolster security for impacted models, the thefts only continue.
A flash flood taking the Brookville community by storm.
But the water actually came high enough to where it came out of that riverbank, and it came up to where that cabin was located just on the edge of the riverbank there.
A search and rescue effort is quickly becoming a recovery. Multiple agencies across state lines working together to find two people. They found the first person dead. His name hasn't been released. Now they're looking for the second person.
So there was somebody that did know there was two individuals that were staying in that cabin, so they went to check on them after all that thing, all these storms had went through. When they went down there to check on them, they realized that the cabin itself had been swept away. And
Their chance of survival is getting slim.
I'm sure you remember this little otter. Well, she's been outsmarting scientists trying to capture her for the past month. The 5-year-old otter goes by the name 841 and has gained popularity all over social media for jumping on surfers' boards and biting them.
I do firmly believe that she needs to get captured and go to the Monterey Bay Aquarium so they can check her out and figure out if there is something wrong with her or not.
With the unsuccessful captures, thousands of people across the world are trying to stop the efforts. A recent petition has been created to keep Otter 841 in her natural habitat.
And coming up here on the National Desk, ghost guns have been the target of more and more restrictions, but some manufacturers may have found a way to get around those laws. We'll explain after this. Ghost guns used in crimes has risen more than 1,000% since 2017. That's according to a federal crime report. Now, those weapons made from untraceable parts are increasingly becoming the subject of restrictive laws in some states. But a Spotlight on America's Lisa Fletcher discovered those laws may be undermined by some manufacturers.
16-year-old DeAndre Thomas nearly died last year, shot at his high school in Rockville, Maryland.
He had the first 8 surgeries. Within the first 3-4 weeks he was in the hospital. 2
months of touch and go. Mom Karen not knowing if her son would lose his leg, ever walk again, or even survive.
And it's torture. It broke everybody in our family's heart.
DeAndre's injuries at the hands of a fellow student, wielding an untraceable weapon known as a ghost gun, with parts he bought online and, according to police reports, assembled with a friend.
When was the first time you ever heard the words ghost gun?
Probably when my son got shot.
DeAndre, one of an untold number of victims of ghost guns, used with increasing frequency by criminals across the country. A Department of Justice report published earlier this year shows ghost gun use in crimes has risen more than 1,000% since 2017. In August, the Biden administration closed a loophole that allowed the kits to be sold to anybody because the parts weren't considered guns. The new rule mandates serial numbers and background checks and classifies the kits containing most of the parts necessary to complete the gun as a gun. But in the months following, manufacturers of these so-called buy, build, shoot kits found a workaround. Many opting to simply offer parts individually rather than in kits, making the core components still easily accessible.
Lawful gun manufacturers play by a set of rules that we as Americans generally agree with. The ghost gun manufacturers do not.
We sat down with Washington, D.C.'s Attorney General Karl Racine as he was finishing his final term last year. He successfully sued the largest manufacturer of ghost guns, Polymer 80, for misrepresenting where they could sell and who could legally own their guns. And while at least 11 states and the District of Columbia have passed their own laws banning or severely restricting ghost guns, the desired effect has been elusive. Cities like Baltimore, San Francisco, New York, Los Angeles, and D.C. have all seen sharp increases in crimes involving ghost guns, and experts say the weapons are likely coming in from states with little or no restriction. Precisely why Racine says states can't wait for the feds to figure this out.
Other states really have to pitch in here in order to make their communities safe. Ghost guns kill people. They make it easier for criminals to accomplish their criminal deeds. And there's no reason for them to be flooding our streets and causing the kind of havoc that we have.
For Spotlight on America, I'm Lisa Fletcher.
Records smashed at the box office for the second week in a row. The two films behind the billion-dollar boom when we return in 90 seconds. The Barbenheimer duo continuing to rewrite box office records now. AMC Theaters says they have achieved their highest sales week ever in more than 100 years of history. The movie theater chain credits Barbie and Oppenheimer, stating that July 21st through the 27th set the new record, and high ticket sales continued after that. 65 individual AMC locations also setting records in the past 2 weeks. Now, combined, these two movies have made more than $1 billion globally in just 10 days. Now, you're going to have to wake up really early or perhaps stay up late, depending on where you live, to catch the U.S. women's soccer team's third World Cup match on Tuesday in Auckland, New Zealand. Kickoff of the match there between the U.S. and Portugal scheduled for 3 a.m. Eastern tomorrow morning. That's midnight on the West Coast. The U.S. will advance to the knockout rounds with a win or a draw. Team USA has won the last two Women's World Cups and is still the favorite to win again this year. That's all for right now. Join me tonight for the evening edition of the National Desk. Check your local listings. I'm Eugene Ramirez. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.